So please raise your hand, either physically or electronically. State your name and organisation before asking your question, and if you're online, please check your sound quality before taking the floor. So, yes please, gentleman in the middle.
Blaž Mohorčić from the Slovenian Press Agency. I have a question on the celebration of 9th of May. Are there planned any events here in Brussels with the presidents of the institutions or anything? Thank you.
There will be events in all the member states, as it was explained by my colleague, but nothing in particular in Brussels. Of course, there will be events in the way that Brussels belongs to Belgium, and Belgium is a member state, so there will be activities. But the president will be probably in another member state and not here at that time.
I might also recall European Open Day this coming Saturday in Brussels, when all the institutions are open, which is also commemorating...
Yeah, this is the 4th of May.
4th of May. If you want to visit any of the institutions, they're all open with your families. Any other question? Yes, please. Kathleen? I can't see with the lights.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Katalin Harmai, Hungarian Népszava. I have a question on the legislative work. What are those dossiers which you are expect to start a trilogue during the Hungarian presidency in the second half of the year? I see in the leaflet there are some legislative work to be done soon. So which are those dossiers which you expect to start or finish during the second half of the year? Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yes, in the file, and if you're not in the room, you can write to us and request it. We've put together a list of pending legislation. They're really just some examples. There's about 119, 120 legislative files pending for the next legislature, 52 of which have already been adopted by Parliament in the first reading without prior agreement with the Member States. So that's the end of the first reading procedure. 4 files have a plenary mandate already to begin negotiations with the Council. 11 files have been voted in committee and are ready to be sent to plenary for that adoption of the mandate. 4 more files are still at the stage of committee drafts, and there's another 48 just at a preliminary preparatory stage. Then there's a list. We haven't listed all 119, but some of the more emblematic ones have been listed for you in order of the ordered by the state of the procedure that they're at. It is up to the new Parliament, once it's constituted, and in particular the new conference presidents, to confirm that they're going to continue with these files and proceed accordingly. I hope that answered the question. David.
Yes, thank you. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Two technical questions. The first one, why are you closing the primaries at 10 o'clock? I mean, are you... And the second question, because I mean, sometimes it could be helpful to breathe some fresh air outside. No, second question. I don't remember if it was on 2019 or 14. You provided us a very useful vademecum with all the political parties in all the member states and so on. I'm wondering if those type of material will be available online or offline. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Micro. Eyes on? Yeah.
I hope it works now. Thank you. We are preparing indeed a big overview of all the political parties. All information will be available, the historical data as well. All will be available on the election website that Matthias mentioned earlier, and of course you can always reach out and we'll provide you with all information you might need. Thanks.
And on your first question, my colleagues just confirmed that 10 p.m. is the deadline for the last accreditation. But if you've already been in the building and you wish to go out for a cigarette or a breath of fresh air, then you're welcome. Viviana.
Yes, thank you. I'm Viviana from Norwegian News Agency. I just wonder, speaking of the threats to the information and and things. Are you planning on throwing some extra surveillance on, for instance, social media to sort of discover deepfakes, or in light that the new technologies now present a lot more space for fake information?
Jane.
Yes, thank you. The monitoring isn't just a part that is done constantly. It's reinforced ahead of the elections, as I said, together with the other institutions, the Commission, the External Action Service, the Council, and then, of course, all civil society that flag us potential risks. We are reinforcing also inside the House. But, of course, the elections are primarily organized at the national level, so that's the reason it's key for us to work with the national electoral authorities and the contact points on disinformation and potential threats at national level. This is also the reason this coordination is extremely important. So yes, and on deepfakes, it's one of the vehicle that is used among many others. So of course, we dedicate a particular attention to these ones. We've seen in the last months the development and potential impact ahead of national elections. So this is a particular area of concern and of action and monitoring, yes.
Yes, please. Laura.
Yes, Laura Zornoza for EFE. My question is not specifically on the campaign, but it's related to this term. What can we expect in Strasbourg for the 15th of July, which would be the last day of the current MEPs? Will there be any kind of ceremony, anything to say goodbye to the term and start the new one? Thank you.
Te contesto en español. El 15 de julio es el último día de la actual legislatura. Es decir, que el día 15 de julio es el último día del mandato de los actuales diputados. Si hubiera que reunir el Parlamento por alguna razón, en pleno o en comisión parlamentaria antes del 15 de julio, se reuniría con los actuales diputados, no con los diputados que serán elegidos el 9 de junio. Estos diputados empiezan su mandato el 16 por la mañana. El pleno empezará el 16 por la mañana y durará hasta el viernes. Va a durar un día más de lo normal, precisamente porque el lunes no hay pleno. En principio, de momento, no hay prevista ninguna ceremonia en especial. Lo que se ha hecho en ocasiones anteriores es reunir a los antiguos diputados en el hemiciclo. En algunos casos, por ejemplo, incluso recuerdo, se les había dado una medalla conmemorativa. Por ahora no hay una decisión concreta sobre si va a haber algún tipo de ceremonia o no. En todo caso, lo que yo creo es más importante saber es que el 16 por la mañana se iniciará la legislatura con la elección del presidente o de la presidenta del Parlamento Europeo, y durante toda la semana irán teniendo lugar las diferentes elecciones internas de los diferentes órganos de la Casa.
Yes, please.
Yes, Konrad Kramer from the Austrian daily newspaper Kurier. Just a practical question. Where would be the possibility to get some more in-depth information about these disinformation campaigns? You've just been mentioning in a very quick overview, but it would be, of course, really interesting to get detailed and more in-depth information.
Thank you. We are, of course, available if you need so you don't hesitate to contact me or my team. And I advise you also to follow specifically the election newsletter of the European Digital Media Observatory, EDMO. They have a weekly newsletter now. It's the Association of Fact Checkers. And, of course, EU versus Disinfo of our colleagues of the External Action Service is also paying a specific attention to the potential narratives and threats ahead of the European elections. So these are first tools, and, of course, we stand available.
Okay, lady at the back.
Thank you. Maria Aroni from Athens News Agency. Could you please tell us when the plenary will will happen for the election of the President of the European Commission? It's going to be in September, you told us last time, but is it going to be here or in Strasbourg? Thank you.
Decided yet, but I'll allow Jeremy to explain in more detail.
It will be decided by the Conference of Presidents after the European elections, not before the elections. So it will be decided by the new Conference of Presidents. Right now, looking to the calendar, the logic option is September. And if it's in September, it will be in Strasbourg, not in Brussels. But again, the decision or the final decision is going to be taken not by this Parliament, but by the next one, in this case, by the Conference of Presidents.
Eddie, sorry, the lights are blinding me.
Thanks, Eddie from Politico. The Parliament's website for checking votes and things like that has been down since at least Friday. Particularly, ahead of the Maastricht debate, we'd quite like to check, how people voted. When will that part of the website be up again, and what's the reason for it? Thanks.
Thank you, Eddie. It's something we are aware. It was not down the whole weekend. There was a technical error on Friday, and we see that there is a glimpse today. So it's being worked on, and it should be online in the as swift as possible. So we are aware of the importance to have it ahead of Maastricht and just to have the digest of the elections, and also to allow you to have again a watch at the documentary that was presented ahead of the elections, of course.
Eddie, yeah, follow-up, was it?
It's not because there's been a cyber attack or anything like that?
We don't have this information for now, but we don't have information that would indicate that, no.
Any other questions? I don't see any online. Ed, oh, sorry, David, yeah.
Yes, to Delphine, if I may. How do you deal with the disinformation or misinformation spread by candidates or elected MAPs or parties who are represented here in the Parliament?
MEPs have the freedom of speech and freedom of mandate. They express their opinions. What we look at is that the tactics, the procedures, the vehicle used by disinformation actors to spread these or amplify these artificially and give it the impression that they represent, for example, the view of the Parliament and not the view of a single person or a specific party. And then this is what we look at. That's the reason when we do awareness raising and the videos that we, for example, did for social media, we amplify and work on the tactics used, playing on emotions, seeking polarization, or using a technique of flooding or others. But of course, there is no mandate to hamper the freedom of speech. What we look at, as Commissioner Jourova puts it, is the freedom of reach that needs to be addressed through legislation, but also the capacity to monitor what is being done by disinformation actors and to warn about it mostly, and then respond whenever we can, also through fact-checkers and media.
Yes, please.
Lorne Cook from the Associated Press. Could I get you on the record on the lead candidate process, please? These lead candidates are the people that you expect to be running for the European Commission President's job, and that you would not expect any other candidates to appear from out of the woodwork or anything like that. Thank you.
Well, you know that the European Parliament already during this term adopted again a resolution expressing its wish on the respect of this lead candidates process, and in some way asking to the European Council also to follow this rule, which worked pretty well in 2014, but not in 2019. We are very happy to see that this Spitzenkandidaten process is well alive. Today there will be a debate organized by several entities in Maastricht. Today we received also public confirmation by Ursula von der Leyen that she will, of course, attend also the Let's Call official debate, the one organized by EBU, by Eurovision, European Broadcast Unit. This debate will be attended also by Nicola Schmidt for the Socialists, Sandro Gozzi for ALDE Renew, Terry Reinke for the Greens, and Walter Bayer for the Left. And all these people have confirmed publicly that they are running to become the next president of the European Commission. And yeah, of course, it will depend also on the result of the European elections. You know that the treaty says that the European Council will propose a candidate to the European Parliament taking into account the result of the European elections.
Okay, that was clear. Any more questions? We have one online. Fabio Fantozzi, just press the speak button. You there, Fabio? Just press the speak button and introduce yourself.
Okay, I was speaking. Good morning, Fabio Fantozzi with the La Presse news agency. Just a clarification on the steps after the elections. Is it possible that the new Conference of Presidencies can convene a new, let's say, plenary or add a new day to the plenary in July to elect the President of the Commission in case the European Council decides at the end of June? Thank you.
Theoretically, it is possible. Theoretically.
Yep.
Karl de Meyer for the French daily Les Echos. Some member states will vote ahead of June 9, at least the Netherlands. Can you please remind us how many countries vote ahead of the Sunday? And then will we have their results at the end of the day they vote, so June 6 for the Netherlands, for instance, or will the results be secret until the Sunday?
So there's this handy infographic in your pack which indicates which countries are voting when, starting with the Netherlands on the 6th, Ireland on the 7th, Czechia also starts on the 7th, continues on the 8th, Italy starts on the 8th, along with Malta and Slovakia and Latvia, and still carries on voting on the 9th, and then all the other countries, the majority vote on the 9th. Matthias, do you want to explain a little bit about the election night and the results? My understanding is that we take the results as and when they're public in the member states. So for Italy, it'll be based on estimates and exit polls until the final votes are published around 11 o'clock.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. So the website will start on Sunday evening and continuously update over the course of the night results if and when they become publicly available in the member states. In case of exit polls and estimates. And then after 11 p.m., also from the national election authorities, the results will shift. So, as you said, yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Juste un complément d'information parce qu'il y avait une partie plus concrète. Non, on n'aura pas les résultats publiés du Pays-Bas ou d'autres pays avant 11 h du soir parce qu'il faut respecter le fait que jusqu'à 11 h du soir, il y aura des collèges électoraux, des station polls qui seront encore ouverts dans le cas d'espèce en Italie.
Thanks, Jeremy. A question at the back? Yes, please.
Erik Bonse, Taz, die Tageszeitung from Germany. A follow-up on the Spitzenkandidaten process. You told us that all the candidates are running for Commission presidency, but many parties, as the Greens or the German Liberals, have 2 or 3 Spitzenkandidaten. So how is it possible to run for Commission presidency? And the Commission president is a Spitzenkandidat, but you cannot vote for her nowhere. She is not running for the parliament. So how can this process be called alive and kicking? Thank you.
Well, on the second question, this was her choice. And by the way, this is something that happens also sometimes in member states. Not all the prime ministers, if I can compare, and I know that it's quite a wide comparison, not all the prime ministers have been members or are members of the parliament before they are elected prime minister. Of course, there are members in this House who think that at some point all these people should also be candidates to the European elections. We have invited all the parties that communicated officially that they have a candidate to become president of the Commission. And it's true that in 2 cases there is more than one candidate, but this is exactly what happened in 2019. And by the way, I think that it was important to see who was the person who at the end attended the debate organized by EBU, because in 2019 this allowed us to understand who were, let's say, the main candidates in any case.
Thank you. Yes, question here, front.
Hello, I'm Sylvain Plazy from Associated Press. I have a question about the clips that we just saw, and my question is, why did you decide to play on fear, on people, more than on hope for the elections? Because from what we understood is if you don't vote, then it's dictatorship and the end of democracy, and why not promoting more the European project and why playing on emotions like this?
First of all, I don't think that this is about fear. This is about responsibility. And these are two different things. And this is, as it was really well explained by my colleague, Philip, this is in some way also the idea of legacy. For many people in Europe, democracy was not something given, was something that at some point they had to fight for. And this is a message that now they are in some way sending or transmitting to their grandchildren. Why? Because it's true. Democracy is at stake. Democracy is fragile. Democracy in many countries is shrinking outside the European Union, maybe even inside the European Union. So when the elections arrive, this is the best possible moment to protect democracy or to defend democracy. And this is the message. Fear, I don't think that there is fear. I think that when you listen to Monique, to the French lady, or to her colleagues, what they are telling you is that democracy, in some way, was the real cause of their lives. And that this is now something that will go in, or end in the hands of these new generations. So I think that this is, yes, about democracy, but it's also about Europe. It's very difficult to understand the European Union without democracy. It would be impossible. But maybe in some countries it would be also impossible to think about democracy without the European Union. And this is why at the end of the clip you see one of the grandchildren saying, in Europe, because this is, in this case, about Europe. I mean, there is a war, or there are even two wars. There is a war against Ukraine by Russia. There is also a war by Russia against all of us. This war of disinformation, it's not just for disinforming, it's for creating an effect with disinformation. So, yes, in this situation, this is maybe the necessary message. It's not just about how nice Europe is or how clever the Europeans have been these 5 last years adopting legislation. This is very important. But in these elections, this is more than about legislation. This is more about a couple of topics. It's also, about what's next.
Good. Any other questions? Yes, please. Sorry. Hiding behind the scope. Well, we've got 2 questions. We'll take this one first and then you come in after.
Любовь Пронина, Bloomberg News. Thank you very much. Do you have any expectations, any projections on younger voters who are going to the ballot box for the first time? And have you taken any particular specific measures to attract this age category? Thank you.
Maybe Delia, could you answer the question on youth?
Well, I think this question should be shared as well with my colleague Philipp Schulmeister, as this whole campaign is also looking into mobilizing the young voters. As regards the Eurobarometer latest data, the results are encouraging. However, I think we can be in touch so that we can look more into the details also, because they differ from a country to a country. So we can look into your question on the more specific results if you wish. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, the Eurobarometer was, some of the data is segmented into age groups. But Philip, there is part of the campaign, not least together.eu, which is not exclusively, but predominantly involving young people.
Thank you. Yes. Addressing young people, reaching out to young people across the European Union for these elections is one of our core tasks, basically already one of our core tasks, at least in the Directorate for Campaigns, and with the offices. We understand and we want to encourage them to vote. We understand that participation in the elections needs to start early, preferably at the first time when you can vote, latest at the second time, because after that, studies, research shows that if you haven't voted for the first or the second time, you might be in far bigger risk to be lost to the democratic process. So starting from this video that we have seen here, and this is maybe one aspect that I haven't touched upon before, is this intergenerational aspect in the narrative that we are having. This is really, we are tapping here into nearly intimate relationship between seniors and their grandchildren, a message that is given to young people and that is taken up by young people at the end of the day. In the previewings that we had over the course of the last 1-2 weeks, specifically with young people, we saw that this message resonates very, very well and is taken up, is understood, and is shared. And it's shared mostly via one of our most important campaigning grassroots tools, which is together.eu, a tool that we have already employed in 2019 to great effect, and that works even better this time around. It's based on a very simple understanding. There are always, and much more than we would tend to believe, people out there, specifically young people, who would like to engage, who would like to do something, who would like to stand up, talk about democracy, talk about voting with their friends, with their families, at their universities, where they live and where they work. So together.eu is this ground force that we ask to be with us communicating about the elections. We have over 300,000 mostly young people who have signed up across the 27. And what's much more important, we have over 50,000 active volunteers. So that means young people who actually go out and do something, who organize events, who organize activities. And this is an amplification of our communication that is priceless, I would say. So talking to and with young people, core of our election communication strategy.
Thank you, Philip. The lady in the middle, and then we'll take Raphael online.
Maybe two figures to complete. 370 million citizens will have the possibility to vote, 26 million for the first time.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Sigrid Melker from Dagens Nyheter, Sweden. A question for Delphine. So, about the disinformation campaign, you mentioned that one of the main themes is electoral fraud and possibility of a stolen election. Is this a new theme, or was this the case a few years ago as well? And secondly, what are your estimates? How much of this is Russian? Thanks.
Yes, the question of attribution is always one that we are not really confident in answering, because we know that there are different actors being active in the information space in the EU. If you look at the INGE reports, they specify several numbers of member states. It's the same in the resolution that was adopted last week in plenary. We know also that there is a huge pro-Kremlin campaign to also seek a disengagement of citizens in favor of parliamentary democracy. Regarding the narrative on election fraud or elections rigged, it's not a new one, but it's one that has been present in all national elections over the past 2 years, probably imported for a part. It's important to underline that it didn't really work in most of the member states. It had been analyzed by several authorities in France, in other member states, that it was present in the Netherlands, but was addressed extremely quickly and didn't have an impact. But we can see that where societies are a bit less resilient, and for example, where there are less pluralistic and independent media, it can have a much broader impact. Therefore, there's such an importance to have strong pluralistic independent media to prevent this from taking grounds in member states. The same for electoral authorities that sometimes are extremely proactive. Again, I was explaining the good practices that we have from Scandinavian countries and Baltic countries, but we also saw very swift reactions when there were election fraud narratives circulated in the Dutch election. So member states are particularly reactive these days, and it does not mean that there is an impact. We see that it is being implanted, but that's different. So that's a bit for what I can say now.
Thank you, Delphine. Raphael, online, would you press the speak button and introduce yourself?
Hi, hello. Thank you for the floor. Raphael Swyland from the Swiss news agency. I have a question regarding third countries and the results. Will they published as like, can I see how people in the EU citizens voted in UK or in Switzerland, or they will be just added to the nations they can vote for?
This is in the hands of the member states. The member states and the electoral committees of the member states are responsible for publishing public information on the results. I really don't know whether there will be counties where they will make differences between the places where people voted. In this case, in third countries. In any case, we don't.
Any final questions? I don't see. Eddie, you'll be pleased to know that the internet is back online in time for your Maastricht debate tonight, which means you'll also be able to see the press kit if you go online on the news section of Parliament's website. All the relevant information to the elections is there. And that remains for me to say, I'll see you on election night. If you're an accredited EU journalist already with your yellow badge, you can just come in. Don't forget to register though. Follow the details for the seat in the hemicycle. Read the media advisory that is published at lunchtime, and get in touch if you still have questions. Thank you very much.